of the house in less than 5 minutes. I was over there out of the house in less than 5 minutes, and was over. She was over near Hopkins at Saint. Oh, jeez, can't think of the name of that church over there. But at any rate, she was over there, and I went over there and I photographed her, and then I went on to. I photographed her 3 more times. I photographed her a total of 4 times, and you know, that would bring tears to your eyes. Well, one of the things is, you know, if you're photographing Mother Teresa or Coretta King, you're really having a good day.
Yes.
You know, you could take a whole lot of Hollywood stars. That's just a Hollywood star. When you have somebody like that, your day it's going to be a good day. You know, it's going to be a banner day.
The crowding point of your day.
Oh, exactly. And you know that's going to make your year when you go to the highlights of your year. And I had meticulously, you know, wrote down where I went, who I photographed, so on and so on and so on. And I sort of compare year to year, and I wanted to make that year better than the year before if possible, you know, that kind of thing. But now I'll tell you another one, and this was really important. Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela. Okay, you're looking at a fellow that, when I got into this, I set out to photograph the greatest people alive. I said I will do it. I started off with a Nobel Peace Prize winner when he jumped out of his car, Gorbachev. And then the next thing was Mother Teresa. That was in '92. So I'm saying to myself, I'm going to photograph the greatest people in the world, particularly Nobel Peace Prize winners, which I've photographed 22 or 23 now. Just the Peace Prize. I don't do just the Nobel Peace Prize. At any rate, so I'm all geared up to go photograph Nelson Mandela, because I know that if I miss Nelson Mandela, I'll never be able to say I photographed the greatest people in the world. Just that one, that's a pretty big spoke out of the wheel. That's a huge spoke. You might as well throw out the wheel. You know, so I planned that down. I had alternative plans. Okay, I put in for a press credential for that day. I put in for it. I didn't expect to get it. I did not think I would get the press credential. I just didn't think I'd get it. I had an alternative plan. I was going to show up down there anyway and say, oh, I thought somebody else didn't show up and maybe there'd be room for me or something. I had all kinds of things, all kind of cocky-maney stuff, because I didn't think I'd get the press credential. Lo and behold, I got the press credential. You know, and if you give somebody like me the press credential, then it's just, you know, I had the press credential. I don't even have to worry. Well, I mean, I still have to worry, but I'm going to make the best of it. At any rate, what happened was, well, when we first got there, we were on this, riser in the back. And again, I mean, I'm 50, 60, 100 feet from Nelson Mandela. That's not really like being there. I mean, I might as well stay at home. I'm way in the back. And I'll tell you what happened. For the people that know about the Secret Service, there's one of their little things they like to do. A gentleman came over, and he stared at me very hard. And he kept staring at me, staring. And he's really kind of aggravating me. I mean, he's staring at me in a not a very nice way. And I'm trying to ignore him, but he won't move it. He keeps staring at me. You know, well, I just try to deal with it. And then, after he finished with me, he went to the next person and stared at them. And I found out, put 2 and 2 together, and I found out what that was all about, but it was very unnerving. We did not have metal detectors that day. Normally, those real big events, they bring in the magnetometers and, you know, they check you out. But we didn't have them. So this is the Secret Service's alternative plan. Now, what they're doing by staring at you, if you have a reason for being there other than the good reason, perhaps you have a weapon or you planning some mischief, if somebody is staring at you, your first thought is going to be, they're wise to me. And then it's going to make you nervous, and you're going to go to hide the weapon, whatever it is, and that's what they want. Because they don't want any goings on when, this is before the thing even starts. None of the dignitaries have come out at that point, but they want to unnerve you if they can. But again, since they didn't have the magnetometers, that's why they did this. But at any rate, a guy came up to me and he said, "John, don't you want to go in the back? They're going to take some of the photographers in the back. And Mr. Mandela President Mandela is meeting in the back." I said, "Well, of course I want to go." Now, I think they may have said something to that group of photographers about where you should be and where you should stay, but I didn't get that memo. I came into the group late, So we went into the room. They were letting us into the room, and I heard President Mandela's voice, and I just shot around that table, a big long circle. It's a big long table, and I shot around that circle to where I could hear his voice, and then I just propped the camera up like that, and then from about 5 or 6 feet away, maybe 8 feet, perfect situation. Okay, and I'm just shooting like this, and then there's another guy standing right next to me. Now he's there, and he's saying, "Mr. Mfume, now could you do this?" And President Mandela, could you do that? Now he's a photographer just like me, but he feels like he could just jump right in here and give all these directions, And then all of a sudden there was like an unease in the air, something really uneasy, like something was wrong, And then I looked around. Me and him were the only 2 photographers that were away from the group. The rest of the group was all the way down there, and they must have got the memo, but we didn't, and so it was like, oh, okay, and then we just, well, we were way out of place at that point, but thanks, I got a great photo, so, and you couldn't have, I couldn't have produced that type of photo from 60 feet away on a riser, you had to be, that close to get that kind of image, so.
Before we go to break, out of all the celebrities you take, whether it's Black history or just normal Hollywood celebrities, do you have a favorite, one that you would do in a snowstorm if you had to?
Well, like I say, there's several favorites. The 4 Hollywood, my 4 Hollywood favorites, the really that I was able to photograph, the big 4 I consider them is, of course, Fay Wray, Olivia de Havilland, Kirk Douglas, and Anthony Quinn. So those are my 4 Hollywood star favorites that I've photographed.
We're going to go to another short break, and when we come back, we're going to wind it up with another one of John's favorite stories. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back with my guest, Mr. John Matthew Smith, photographer, and he's been talking to us about some of his experiences and some of the favorite people that he's photographed. And what I want to ask you now, John, is all of us in whatever business we're in, we have certain techniques and certain rules that we go by, and we follow those pretty religiously. Do you have any rules and techniques that you actually go by when you go out to do a photo shoot?
Again, the main thing with me, so far as techniques, you get there early and you get the proper position. When I photographed Venus and Serena, well, I actually photographed Venus Williams and Serena Williams when they were little, 12 years old. And I photographed them when they were older as well. And as an example, the last time I saw them was in 2000, and it was actually it wasn't the last time, it was one of the last times I saw them, but with utter mayhem at this photo shoot. utter mayhem. I mean, it was the public, it was the press, it was everybody. You couldn't move. You almost felt bad for the poor girls, you know. But what I did was, instead of getting in all that mess, I asked the coordinator, where exactly are the girls going to end up? Where are they going to be? And they said, well, it's going to be right there. At this, and they showed me the spot. And I stood there. I waited a half hour at that spot. But when they got there, I was in the front dead center. Okay? So you know, you plan ahead. Plan ahead. Go by the rules. You know, go by the rules if you can. You know, follow the rules. Take what's given to you. Ask, you know. Caroline Kennedy, same thing. Caroline Kennedy is not much for getting her picture taken, I can tell you. And she was at this bookstore a few years ago. And, you know, me and another photographer were out there. There was a couple of us, 3 or 4 of us, and we were all sad because she wasn't going to allow us to take any pictures. And so finally, because we looked so sad, they said, well, okay, we're going to let you guys take a picture, but just for a minute, not even a minute. You're just not going to have, you know, but we'll bring her out, you know. Well, I asked the coordinator in the meantime. They came out there. They're going to and fro. I said, where exactly would you want to put Caroline? In fact, here looks like a good spot, I told her. She said, we'll put it right there. I said, okay, fine. Well, when she came out, every other photographer was giving her the bum's rush coming out the door. I was waiting for where I knew she was going, okay? So, and the other photographers, she stayed there such a short period of time, they didn't get any pictures. I was the only one that got any photos, and here I was, dead center in the middle, you know. So sometimes it's just a little bit of planning, you know. Another rule that I had was if there's a legendary person, or the person that I was most after, which would be the legendary one, you would focus on that person, and I wouldn't take any pictures of anybody else in the room until that person left. Well, I might add, for the viewers out there, I took 95% portraits for all the years. So I couldn't take group pictures. I didn't like group pictures. I lost all the detail of the photographs by putting all the extra people in it. I didn't want them in there, you know. And people say, well, are you a photojournalist? I said, well, not really, because I don't want my photos to tell a story. The people I'm photographing, they've already told their story. I'm just trying to get the best image of them as possible. You know, that's what I'm trying to do. So, you know, I had my priorities. You know, I had my priorities. And a trick, my favorite trick, and I can illustrate one of my favorite tricks with Jimmy Carter. Now, I had photographed Jimmy Carter once or twice too, but never really got the photograph that I wanted. And he was at a book signing. You know, some of my stuff is from book signings. And he was at a book signing. And the press, again, was too far away. They were just too far away to get a good photograph. But then I found out that this little 10-year-old girl who was over there with us, she had won some type of a contest at her school. She had won a contest. She is going to have a chance to interview Jimmy Carter. Well, he's got to come over to where we're at, thankfully, and she's going to interview him. Well, all the other photographers, they're trying to cover, which is fine, and it's fine with me. You know, they want to cover the event of Jimmy speaking to this little girl. You know, so they're all, you know, on the sides like a profile of Jimmy and the little girl as they're speaking. And that's all well and good, you know, but again, I don't want all that clutter in my photo because I want a nice portrait. So where would you think I would be? I was right over the shoulder of the little girl. So all those looks that Jimmy was giving to the little girl, the kind of looks you give to a little girl, which is just the kind of looks I want on my photos, he's giving them to me just the same, you see. So I would always photograph over people's shoulders if I could, because then I would get the candids, the genuine candids of this person interacting with this other person. But that's some of the things I learned over the years, you know.
Okay, we're going to wind this segment up. As I said, John has a vast collection of antique photography that we're going to see on the next episode. I'm not going to let him go this easily. We're going to do another episode, and we're going to do the antique show. But we're going to end up with one of his favorite stories that I love.
Okay.
Talk to me about the John Kennedy thing.
Okay, well, John Kennedy, I went up to New York. I was up there for, I'm not sure which event. It was a big highfalutin event up there. And, it was Essence Awards. And I went up there, and I thought that I would just go around while I was there, and I photographed Halle Berry and Muhammad Ali and Mariah Carey, I think. There were several people at the Essence Awards, and that was good. I was real pleased about it. But I wanted to go up there and see what I could do in New York, stay a few days, you know. So I actually, you know, and I don't want anybody to think I'm the paparazzi because, you know, but, you know, I know, you know, that's why I don't always like telling this story. People get the wrong impression. But I did go over to the Dakota where John Lennon and Yoko Ono live. Of course, John didn't live there at that point because he sadly passed. But I did wait outside the Dakota. That's sort of a stakeout, like a policeman would do. I was just staking it out. I had time, you know. And, you know, you wait around long enough, and your limousine pulls up, and out comes Yoko Ono, just like clockwork, you know. I don't know, it might not have been clockwork. I think I was there 3 or 4 hours. But she popped out, and I said, Miss Yoko, or Miss Ono, I get a couple shots. She's fine. I take a couple of pictures, and I'm happy, you know. So I said, well, now I know John lives down there in Tribeca on North Moore Street. And again, I don't consider this paparazzi stuff because I know that he doesn't mind you taking a couple of pictures. He just doesn't want you going and jumping in your car and chasing him and all that hug-a-mug, you know. He just wants you to get a few shots and be done with it, which is I'm perfectly happy with that. So I go down there and, you know, I'm down there and there's a bar next door to John's apartment. And again, like I said back then, before I was older and wiser, I used to drink a beer every now and then, and yes, it was 11 o'clock in the morning, but anyway, I went.
Medicinal purpose.
Right, it was medicinal. I was trying to relax for my big photo shoot. So I went in and I asked the man, "Can I get a beer?" And he said, "No." I said, "No, just any beer is fine." No. No, I don't care if you got draft, whatever, just a beer. No. And I, for the life of me, I cannot figure out why this guy won't serve me a beer. So I was kind of upset. I didn't say it. Just, God, what's the matter with him? And I walked, you know, I left and I went to another bar around the corner and sat there and shot a little pool and drank a little beer and just sort of relaxed. But I had to keep my appointment. Figured John might be getting home around 4. Well, I figured he might not get home till 5 or 5:30, but I wanted to be sure, so I went over there about 4 o'clock. So I went over and I was going to go over there and wait for him to come home. And there was a railing there. I thought, well, I'll just cozy myself up, sit here on this railing, and wait for him to appear. Well, I sat on the railing, and as soon as I sat on the railing collapsed, and I went head first down these steps. Now,
concrete steps?
No, they were wood.
Oh, they were wood.
It was concrete. I might not be sitting here. I might be over at the Laurel Hospital. So anyway, I'm getting myself. You know, I got cobwebs in my head, and I'm trying to get myself together to come back up the steps. And I hear a voice at the top of the steps, and you know, I was walking up the steps, and here's this fella. Well, this is the same fella that wouldn't serve me a beer earlier. So I'm saying, man, you're not the person I don't want to see you ever again. Why are you here again today? What is up with this? This is a crazy world. It's like an alternate universe I was in. So anyway, I was kind of frustrated about the whole situation. I didn't know if my camera equipment was something. It was busted a little bit, not too bad. At any rate, I was very frustrated, and I left. I actually left, which is something I would never do. I mean, I was always be there for the duration. But no, I left. I was just frustrated from the whole situation and couldn't figure out what was going on, and I went home right from that spot. Well, it was a couple of months later. It was at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Now, me and a friend of mine, we were going to go and shoot that dinner. Now, we heard that Robert De Niro was going to go to the dinner. And so we didn't expect, they have receptions before the dinner, and you don't have too much trouble with the receptions, but the dinner, it's impossible to get in. But we didn't think he'd come to the receptions. We figured we'll have to get in a dinner. And it's really tough to get in a dinner. But we thought, well, we probably can get in the dinner. So there was a Secret Service man there, and she said, "Oh, this interview is going to get me in a lot of trouble with the Secret Service." There was a Secret Service man there, and I said, "You know what? I bet you if we just show him our press passes, he'll let us in." I don't think he knows. I just got the feeling he doesn't know we actually need a ticket and press passes, not just press passes alone. So let's just try it. And then we tried it, and it worked. You never know what you get if you try. The old saying, you make your own luck. So we're in there, and we just turned the corner to go into dinner. Excuse me. And I look up, and there is John Kennedy Jr. standing right there. I swear I saw Santa Claus and the reindeers, because it was like Christmas. It was like Christmas. This was really good, really, really good. So I'm taking my pictures, and his wife was there, and I'm photographing her, and so on and so on. But then I said to him, and I didn't really speak to the Sitars a lot, but I said, "John, I just wanted you to know, I'm not going to hassle you." This is the kind of guy I was, I'm not going to hassle you all night, coming back and forth and all. I'm not going to do it. I'll probably be by now and then for a few pictures. But I'm not going to hassle you a lot. I just want you to know that, And I said, as a matter of fact, I was up at the Essence Awards, and I was looking for you up in New York when I was up there, at the Essence Awards. And he said, "No, I wasn't at the Essence Awards." And I said, "Oh, no, yeah, I know you weren't at the Essence Awards. I stopped down by your house and was going to get a couple photos, and then the railing broke, and, And then when I told him about the railing breaking and all this, he looked at me real funny like, that's the guy. Like, that's the guy. And I couldn't figure out what exactly what was going on at that point. But when I went into the dinner, like I said, I told him I'd stop by. Well, we went and got De Niro first. We really shot De Niro up. And then we went over and photographed Mrs. Clinton doing the Pledge of Allegiance, and Bill, and it was very, very nice. But then I had to go back to, just a couple shots on shot. I was going to come by. And so I walked by, and all of a sudden, he kisses Carolyn. Now, I did portraits. So somebody kissing, that's one person too many. I normally wouldn't take that picture. It's just not something I'm interested in, But I thought I better take it, so I took it. Well, what ended up happening was I put the word out that I had the photograph of the two of them kissing, and all of a sudden I've got these photo agencies contacting me. They never very cared about me before. Now they all care about me. All want to see about to get that photograph with their agency, So, and photo agencies, that's another interesting topic, because once you're accepted by one of them, which is pretty hard to do, they market your photographs, and then you keep 50% and they keep 50%, and that's how that works. So at any rate, it dawned on me at some point, wait a minute, he did this for a favor for me. He kissed her as a favor to make up for the fact that I almost killed myself up in New York. And then it was all coming to me. The reason the guy wouldn't serve me a beer was because he saw the camera equipment, and he thought I was there to photograph John, which I was. But I didn't expect him to hold that against me, but he did, obviously. But that got me with Gamma Liaison, the photo agency Gamma Liaison, which became Getty. So, to make a long story short, basically, the great photograph that I mentioned earlier in the interview about Princess Diana, and the cover of U.S. News and World Report, the bestseller. I would have taken that photograph, but I never would have sold it, because I wasn't with I wouldn't have been with, the Kennedy photograph put me with the agency, which opened that door, and that's how that came to be,
Those are some very interesting stories. And we're going to have, as I said before, we're going to have John back on a future episode. But you also have a blog, and you have a website.
Right.
And you can see either one of those by looking at the numbers here on the screen. And we also have a phone number for John if you need to, if you want to contact him.
Yeah, I do events. If you're having an event, black tie or a birthday party, and I do all that. Don't do weddings. That's a specialty.
So, again, that's our show for tonight. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Very interesting photos and stories. And we'll be back, and we hope you will too.